2, 1.
Good evening. Today is Monday, March 9th, 2020. It is 6 p.m. and I am Lynn Snee, Chair of the Community and Economic Development Committee. To my right is Mr. Bill Twist, and to my left, Mr. Bill Rozelle, who are the other members of this committee. We have two items on the agenda tonight, and with no objection, I'd like to take care of number 2 first, Mr. Tedderington, which is to provide a recommendation to Council regarding resolution number R16-2020, an application of Sherry Mumpower to place land in agricultural district. Is there any information on that?
Nothing other than what you're in your report. This is a 5-year renewal. We didn't have any objection to it at all.
Okay. Do you have any questions, Mr. Rozelle?
Move forward.
Any other council members? The audience members? All right, then it is unanimous to move forward with that item recommended to council.
Thank you.
The other item we have on our agenda this evening is an item that regards providing a recommendation to City Council regarding ordinance number 08-2020, which amends the general plan of the Halifax Villas Plan Development. And we had a public hearing on this at the last council meeting, so now this is coming before our committee. Mr. Tedderington, can you give us a brief piece of information on that?
Brief update on that. So this is a request for a major revision. This would move the clubhouse from northeast of Picotroy to just north of Nottingham Stub off of Finsbury. It would expand the boundary of the PD by adding another 8 acres to the southwest, which would be that parcel. And I'm not sure what other kind of information you would want, other than the clubhouse access would be basically turning Nottingham Stub to a drive for it. It will have golf cart walking access from other areas of the Halifax Villas development.
Okay. I know one question that came up after the discussion at the public hearing. The street that leads in, what is now the Nottingham Stub that you referred to, would that be a city street on any portion or a private street like the rest of the development?
I believe it would be private. I don't think it's going to have any street designation.
Okay, and will it be publicly accessible, or is that going to be gated in any way since
That I don't know.
the clubhouse is there?
The developer is here if you'd like to ask him
Okay.
questions.
If I could, Mr. Harlow. If you wouldn't mind stating your name and address for the record, please.
Frank Harlow, 701 North Market Street, Troy, Ohio. So we'll go to the end of the current city street and create an approach and do an approach in, and then it'll be a driveway back, and it'll be a private driveway maintained by the association for the
Okay.
clubhouse.
Is there going to be anything, any hindrance to accessibility by the public, any gate or anything there?
I wasn't planning on putting a gate in.
Okay.
If that would be a requirement, we could talk about that, but I would think a gate would be more of a...
It would be signed as a private drive then?
Yeah, we'd have signage for the private drive, and it would be a private drive going back in.
All right, and I think I saw on the layout that we had that there are 28 vehicle spaces at the clubhouse. Is that
That's
a right
probably
number?
correct,
Okay.
and that would be for cars and or golf carts.
Okay, all right. Thank you.
Thank you.
Did any other council members have questions for Mr. Harlow?
I just have one.
Yes, Mr.
Mr. Harlow, do you plan on putting any kind of a buffer between the swimming pool area and the houses that would abut?
Yeah, there'll be arborvitaes planted down through there, and I've met with most of the homeowners and open to meet with any others to talk about individual buffering. If somebody has a problem where we can do individual buffering, and with the design, the idea of moving the clubhouse over there was to not affect all those homeowners up against their properties. We're going to leave all that original, but when I met with them, told if anybody wanted particular buffering, we're going to plant a lot of trees. So we can address that, but there will be trees planted around the pool area itself to buffer it both directions.
Okay, Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
And just to clarify, by leaving it, as you said, as original, it's garden space, green space around.
Yeah, so
the
to the,
clubhouse.
to the east and down in that corner will be garden space, and the rest will be green space planted with trees. And I was trying to work with the neighbors and make sure that we didn't affect them any. You know, where the ground lies now, it'll stay the same, meeting up to their backyards.
Any other? Mr.
If I
Phillips?
may, what were their concerns? Was it noise or was it sightline?
The biggest concern I heard that night was a little bit of concern with traffic going by the house in the dead-end street, which I think will be minimal, but that was a concern. And then, you know, everybody in that area has got concern with water, and, you know, we're going to do our best to control all the water, take it back to the pond before it goes to the creek. So we're going to improve it. There's no question in doing this. But that, you know, the neighbors that have lived there all those years, that was their concern.
Okay, thank you.
Mr. Schilling, did you have a question?
Mr. Harler, on the landscaping around the clubhouse, is that, I mean, is that going to be like a mowed area? I mean, is it going to be grass and,
The entire space will be grass around it, where it's not gardens. That whole field now will become a mowed lawn like a park.
Okay.
So it's going to look, the setting's going to be very park-like as far as the trees. It'll kind of take the shape of what the area over off of Troy Urbanus taken around the ponds.
okay, and then the garden area, that is like for the residents of the development, they can have like plant corn, wheat, and barley and everything?
Well, hopefully they don't plant corn and wheat, but so they can plant tomatoes and so forth, who knows what they're going to plant. But there'll be tracks there where the individuals that live over in the patio homes can make arrangements to have their tracks so they can go out and do some gardening.
Okay, great.
Any other questions from council members? Okay, thank you, Mr. Harley.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. Are there any other questions from anyone in the audience? Mr. Davis? If you wouldn't mind stating your name and address, please, for the record.
I'm Mary Davis, 145 Finsbury Lane, Troy. My question is that supposedly there's a study that shows that the proposed development will not have an impact on the floodplain, and I don't think that we have heard about that study or the results of that study. So that's my question.
Thank you. Mr. Titterington or Mr. Davis?
I don't believe there's a study being done. They will have to apply to FEMA. It is in a floodplain to build that. You don't have to provide surveys with the elevation levels. I think that's what you're referring to.
Right, there's a- I
That'll
thought
be
there-
done, yeah, after this process would go through.
So after the building is built, then it's
It would be before the building is built, but once approval was made by this. He wouldn't apply for the building for the plan development unless this was approved by council.
Okay,
That
so
would start the process.
should we get the results of that before the development?
Yeah, we would require that to, before we would issue the permit for that to be built.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Davis.
So I guess the bottom line is that the study or the approval would either happen or not, and the building would not occur if FEMA didn't accept it.
That's correct. It's a requirement to be built.
Okay. And just to clarify, whatever recommendation this committee makes tonight will go to council, and that approval that Mr. Davis was referring to will be at next week's council meeting. Are there any other questions from any members in the audience? Yes, sir.
I'm Dan Dutton. I live at 72 Tamworth, Troy, and I might be out of the process here, but I was thinking of something the other day, is instead of having the access to this recreational area coming off of Finsbury, since this recreational area is for the villa, why don't they make the access directly from the villa? That way the senior citizens that live over there don't have to, if they don't want to have if they have to drive their car, they got to go out on the road down Little John, Finsbury, and so forth, and they got to exit the same way, where if it was self-contained within the villa, they wouldn't have to get out on the roadways. I think it might make it a little bit more convenient for the people that live in that villa. So I don't know where the design stands at this time, but that's my comment.
Thank you for your comment. I know Planning Commission looked at this plan development and approved it with this change. I know there is golf cart access from within the villa, but I'm not sure if there's another place for street access to come
See, I
from within there.
didn't It'd probably require for one house not to be built, so they'd have a road to go across there, but then the residents, they wouldn't have to go out on Pickwick Troy Road, out and around, and then have to cross traffic back. They could leave right from the villa. Since it's part of the villa, I think it ought to be self-contained to the villa rather than coming over to Sherwood and imposing on people over there,
I appreciate your comments.
okay?
Thank you. All right, are there any other questions, comments? Yes, ma'am.
Hi, I'm Jennifer Jimenez, 166 Finsbury. I just want to clarify and make sure I understand what Mrs. Davis was just told, because we were told that a study would be done by Choice One Engineering, a hydraulic study that would be submitted to the city and that for approval, and then to FEMA for revision to the floodplain map. Because most of you know that the entire 8-acre parcel is within the AE zone, which is the worst floodplain zone. So most of the residents, that has been the main concern, even when this went for referendum in April 2018. So could somebody please clarify that one more time, that the study will be done, but council will vote to approve before you have the data to make an informed decision, or we're not really understanding?
If I can, Mr. Davis. I think that what Mr. Davis was saying was that once this change to the planned development is approved, then the developer will have to apply to FEMA. And until approval for that comes back, until the results of that comes back, the planning department will not issue a permit to build. All we are doing right now is approving the planned development, the change actually to the planned development that was in existence.
But council will vote for the rezoning next week, is that correct?
Council will vote for a change to this planned development.
Okay, so this is not the rezoning for the ordinance?
This is the rezoning. This is not, council does not approve the actual permit. That's a planning controlled function from, on the administrative side. That happens, but they can't submit and we can't approve without the plan development, which is a form of zoning, rezoning, has to be altered to accommodate this change. Once that happens, then that's when the detailed work gets done and no permit is approved by staff until they meet all the criteria, which includes getting approval by FEMA.
So at this point, there's no math or calculations that show the impact to the floodplain should the development occur?
We wouldn't have that, and this, I want to clarify this too, this is step 1 of 3 in the process, so this would be approving the general plan. There'll be a time where it comes for a final development plan and record plan, if this could move forward as well. So that's when you start getting the calculations, that's when we see the hydraulic study, that's when that would come out. It would be later in this process, just not at the very beginning.
When will that study be done?
So that study would be done, if this would go through city council, it would come back to the planning commission for the record plan, probably as fast as Choice One, and I assume the applicant submits the final development plan and record plan. So it's kind of on their time frame. For us, it could come anytime after the approval process and the 30-day period passes for the general plan.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Are there any other questions regarding this item? Seeing none, how do you wish to proceed?
Move it to council.
Bill, Mr. Patel? Yes. Unanimous to move it for approval to council. Move forward. See, there are no other items to come before the Community and Economic Development Committee tonight, so we are adjourned.